just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Welcome back to the Grand Columbia channel. Welcome to Coffee Time Live. It's nice to see you all. Yeah, I can see you. I can see you, and you didn't even bother getting showered and dressed yet. All right, I got a bunch of things, and we got a topic today, unlike last week. Quickly, go down through here. Jerry, just before we tuned in, he left a contribution. Thank you, and it's becoming a weekly thing. Yuka, thank you. I appreciate very much. And let's see, we've got good from 2B. It is. And Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Thank you. Jerry, good morning. Right after this, we've got a Skype call. It'll be about 5 minutes after I close this down, and we'll hook up. Libby, good morning. How you doing? I know how you're doing. You're in Ecuador, so, you know. Whoa, just jumped. Mike, good morning. Happy birthday, and good morning. Mike, I have a present for you. What you said you couldn't get, yet here it is. I've got actually a box of them, so I got a couple of these for you. What else? Yuka, greetings from Finland. How you doing? Gabriel, greetings from Florida. Ron, I trust many Colombians. It's like anywhere, you have to be careful and aware. I am fortunate to have lots of family in Armenia, though. It is not like anywhere, actually, and I agree with you on most things, but on this thing, there are some things that are unique to Colombia, which is why I'm going to cover this today. Emil, how you doing? He's sitting in his condo up over my head, looking down on me. Probably out on his balcony with a cup of coffee, spitting to see how far it can go and if it'll hit my roof. Matthew, how you doing? Virginia Beach. Party, Ecuador. This is going to be a triggering topic. Then again, all good conversations are triggering. It shouldn't be a triggering topic. People make assumptions, but I haven't talked about it yet. And I had conversations with a couple of my friends, Colombian, prior to doing this, but I'll get to that topic. You'll see what I mean. Good morning from Ibagué. How you doing, Dan? Good morning, LL. When are we going to have that coffee? Morning from Houston. Mark, how you doing, Mark? Okay. First of all, going to start off with kind of a bummer. Down here, right now, currently, there's this idea, there's a story going around that the U.S. border is wide open, and this is your shot to go and just walk right into the United States and make yourself a good life, send money home and all that. That's a story all over South America and Central America. Well, this was in the news this morning, and I'm not going to read the story. It's a long story. It was pretty sad and upsetting. They left Colombia looking for the American dream and drowned in Mexico. Actually came from Venezuela in 2018 and had a whole bunch of odd jobs, basically struggling because Colombia's had a hard time absorbing, over 1 million people coming into the country. So they decided now's the time because the border's open, welcome arms go into the United States. So they got themselves to Panama. From Panama, they walked all the way up through Central America into Mexico. When they crossed into Mexico, they actually took the time to get permission to go through Mexico. And then they hooked up with, along with everybody else and a bunch of people, they hooked up with Mexican coyotes who took them up to the Rio Grande River. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but in parts of the Rio Grande River, there's dams and they do water control. And every so often, those things open up. Well, the coyotes are supposed to, be aware of the schedule of these things, but, they just throw whoever is low on the totem pole of that cartel, and you get the dirty task of taking people across the Rio Grande River. They were crossing the Rio Grande River at the same time this thing opened up. So the water got a lot deeper and started running faster. Well, his I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend, but they were together for a number of years. She lost her footing. They were in the river. She lost her footing and got swept down river. And he dove in after her and tried to find her. They have yet to find her. They found him way down the river, dead. They're both dead. So it was a pretty sad story and kind of unnecessary, but that's the world we're living in right now. Quickly, I don't have a lot to say about this, but talks with the ELN terrorist group along the Venezuelan border in Colombia. Talks have resumed. There were talks going back to Santos and Duque, and then they fell off, and they have resumed. That may be why Petro had the meeting with Duque recently. So it's resumed under the old regime, but I'm sure Petro will continue them. There might have been some coordination in that. And these talks are being supported by currently Norway, Spain, and Chile. They're the mediators. So I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens. The good news is there is a bilateral ceasefire at the moment. And so maybe that'll save a few lives while this is going on. I don't know. We'll see. I don't have much more to say about that. This week, I got in the car and went to Chinchina and decided to check it out because we talked about it last week. And I'm going to do a video on it, but or maybe I'll change my mind and not do it. All my footage is in the car because I couldn't find any place to park. I drove all over the city. I was there for quite a while, going up and down and these real narrow places, and you just don't really park. The only place I found parking were a long way from the center. But I'll tell you my impression, and this is just from driving around the city. It was really boring. It's just your traditional brick houses nonstop everywhere. Now, it is known for being the largest freeze-dried coffee facility in the entire world. That's its claim to fame. So I guess that's pretty cool. I don't drink freeze-dried coffee, but it's, I guess it's something to be really proud of. So I'll let you know, further notice on whether, my heart's not in this one. It was very disappointing. It had been raining. It was raining on and off. And so even the video, it came out nice and clear, but it's just really overcast. I don't know. We will see. Okay, next, we're almost to the topic, I promise you. I had a visit from a Coffee Time fan, a groupie. just kidding. As a matter of fact, she just made a comment. Lucero, there, hello. She came to visit with her young son, and we talked, I don't know, 4 hours or so, maybe more. Ordered up some chicken and just talked and talked. It was very interesting. Her English is quite good. She's in the process of testing to be an interpreter. But she's got this, she inherited a farm from her father, and it's all run down. It hasn't been worked in a long time. And she was asking if I might be interested to go look at it and see if there's anything that could be done with it. So I don't know. I think from her description, it's going to take some time and money put into it to, repair it and bring it up to speed. And even if you do that, then what? It was a coffee farm with animals, and it's something that could be profitable. It could be something that it could be a destination to go and see what's going on. Maybe we can make something of it. So if all goes well, we'll go out and see it this week, and I'll see what's going on. I don't know if it's something I'll ever be involved in, but I know there's a few of you that are really hung up on the idea of having place in the country, even if you're not living there. So maybe there's something that I can put together for you and see. I was reading that 1,800 people were buried alive in Chinchina when Nevado del Rio erupted in 1985. Really? It's pretty far away. But I don't know. I'll have to look. It's near Manizales, and Manizales wasn't bothered by it because of the distance. So I don't know, maybe. So where am I? Oh, and her aunt lives in Chicago. So she got on the phone. Her aunt watches Coffee Time every week. Hello. And put her on the phone to meet me, the star of Coffee Time. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it was pretty interesting. Good morning. I can tell you rich Colombians are coming here and buying property with urgency before Petro takes over. I don't know. We will see. We will see how it goes. If I were rich and I was worried about Petro, the last thing I'd be doing is buying property for fear that he might confiscate it and give it away. But you never know. Like I said, he's not going to be in office that long. He's not king. He doesn't have the power to just decide things. He's got a lot of people that he's got to go through and get support and votes from that are entirely opposed to him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, now we're going to get to the topic of trust. And I'm going to tell you that there's two parts to this. When you're dealing with people in Colombia, basically, good, honest people, I find that I can trust people here as much as pretty much anywhere. But having said that, when you meet people here in Colombia, I know I can hear some of you. Hold on, let me get to it, because there's two sides of this coin. But when you meet people here in Colombia, one of the first things they'll tell you is be careful, don't trust anybody. There's Colombians that will tell you that. And if you've been here to Colombia, if you've been living here, you know what I'm saying is a fact. Oh, be careful. Be careful, don't trust anybody. Why is it like that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Planning to be in Armenia soon. Before I book my Airbnb, any recommendations on safest neighborhood to stay? Anywhere in the north is good. It's in the book Magdalena, River of Dreams, an excellent book, which is nowhere near Chinchina. But I'll check it out. If if I decide to proceed with a video, I always look at the history and details and things like that. So if that's the case, I'll probably talk about it. Okay. So two sides of the coin. So I say that Colombian people are essentially as trustworthy as anywhere, maybe even more. If you're talking about people in rural Colombia, they're firm believers in honor and integrity, and they'd sooner cut their arm off than betray you, kind of. Where I'm from, upstate New York, it's like that. And then you got downstate New York, it's the complete opposite. You can't trust anybody. And you got a lot of places in the South, you've got a lot of places in the West. If you go to Montana, for example, people that are originally from there, not people who just recently moved in, but a contract is a handshake. You know, a verbal commitment is a promise. And so rural Colombia is much like that. However, with something like 92% of the people in Colombia actually live in cities of one size or another. Cities, pueblos, there's very few of the population actually live out in the countryside. So here's where that two-headed coin parts. When money becomes involved. Now, some of you that come to Colombia because you're just looking to play, then you're putting posts all over Facebook about, you know, the girls that are scamming you for money, or, you know, you're afraid you're going to get a scopolamina and trapped into a hotel and wake up to find everything gone, and talk to them on the internet, and they, you know, are real nice and lured you in, and then they start talking about they just had their cell phone stolen, or somebody's sick in the family, and you feel bad and you start sending them money, and then later you find out it was all bull and they're just taking advantage of you. When it comes to money, things change. Now, you could say that about a lot of places, but I'll get to it, of why there's a uniqueness to this about Colombia. There's actually a saying, and it's a paraphrase: a fool lends a book, a bigger fool returns it. When it comes to anything that we're going to loosely call business, anything goes. And the better that you can score, no matter the means, the more brilliant you are. And if you're on the other side of that, if you got ripped off, you're the idiot. The victim is the idiot, and the person who took advantage and scored, it's not a stigma around it. It's like he'll get the pats on the back and people will buy him a beer for being so clever. I did quite a bit of business and never had any issues at all, much of it with a virtual agreement. The only time I was taken was by my ex-fiancée. Yeah, well, nobody ever says everything. And it really depends on the level. I mean, if you're with a corporation that's doing international business, you won't experience it because they're tailored to the people that they're going to do business with. That's a whole different ballgame. And you're talking about, you know, less than 1% of the population that is involved in anything like that. I'm talking about, you go down to the tienda and you decide to buy some shoes, and many people will go ahead and pay ahead or pay half of it. He might tell you to pay half of it or all of it because of the cost of materials or whatever. So you do that, and you come back and you get the shoes and you find out there's something wrong with them. They don't quite fit. Deal's over. It's done. Money's paid. You got the shoes. Nothing matters from there. So how do you address that? How do you keep them honest? Well, it's simple. You go in, and if it's materials, then you could put a small down payment on it, you know, maybe 25%. He's going to want that big piece of the pie. Or don't put anything down at all. When you return, if you find a problem, to get that money, he will correct that problem. And once you got it and you're satisfied with it, you know everything's cool, that's when you pay him. And if you do that, you're not going to get burned. But when you come from another country where it's not uncommon to trust a merchant to a certain extent and, put half down or something like that, that's where you can get into problems. I mean, like I say, it's considered to be shrewd and clever to cheat. So when it comes to money, when it comes to business, it's the way the culture is. Again, I'm not referring to the people that step outside of their culture in order to do international business. They're not, they're not stupid people, and they can, make good judgments, believe me. Didn't get notification again today, not unusual. After all, it is YouTube. Like I say, if they had their way, they'd shut me down. I do think that we've cured the throttling, but who knows? You never know. So it's important to understand if you're doing any kind of business, whether it's renting an apartment or just buying something in a little store or whatever it is, everything is exact by the letter. You see, there is integrity in it, because if you do a contract and something occurs, but it was written into that contract, it will be honored for the most part. And so there is integrity in that. However, if there's a situation that wasn't put into that contract and it comes up, they don't know anything about it. Doesn't matter. It could even have been their responsibility, but if it wasn't addressed, that's your problem. You set yourself up for that. So it's that kind of mentality that's here. Well, you hear it all the time, DARPA pie or no DARPA pie. I mean, DARPA pie is basically, there's a lot of people, don't set yourself up, don't get caught with, or caught with your pants down, and no DARPA pie would be, don't get caught with your pants down. But, I'll tell you, we know things that say beware when you're doing business. That's caveat emptor. And buyer beware. So throughout the world, it's buyer beware. Of course, you want to be careful. It's that on steroids here. Because here, the responsibility is on you. And what others do, it's your fault if you set yourself up to be ripped off. It's your fault. And for them, it's time to buy them a beer. They're going to celebrate. It's deep rooted into the la violencia, the violent years of Colombia. Now, I've told you this before. Some of you may remember that when I lived in Pereira 20 years ago, that was when the FARC were still here. They were in Quindío, out in the rural areas, pretty strong. And when I was here, what you saw all the time is when somebody, my mic cuts off. Anybody else noticing that? I'm not seeing it. It's working here. If you walked out on the street and you looked, you would see every woman with her bag glued to her chest like this, head down, and just going about kind of like what it is in Ecuador. It would just be like this, very protective. You don't see that today because Colombia has changed. It's gone through a massive economic recovery over the last 20 years and a cultural recovery. And now, instead of everybody short because of bad diets, you see normal height. It's a very different country than it was 20 years ago. And you don't really see that much, although you will see people being very careful. But it's interesting. Here in Armenia, it's not that people want to be like that, but it's the culture. It's what they grew up in. And here in Armenia, you will see girls in particular, they like to wear the midriff shirt, and you'll see their cell phone stuck in the top of their pants for the whole world to see. They'll get on the bus, they'll walk around. It's like that. And they don't worry about it because in the north part of Armenia, it's just very safe. There just aren't really incidences of even petty theft to any extent. I mean, it's very rare. Now you get into the south part of Armenia, it's a little more typical, although it's safer than pretty much everywhere else. But there, it's that same girl, if she goes down in the south, she will probably take that cell phone and put it out of sight. When she gets on the bus, she'll be more aware, maybe keep it in her hand or something. So even here in Colombia, they can appreciate areas like the north of Armenia. But when what comes up a lot, because probably 80% of the people that are moving here are guys, and so you probably have 70% of them that are, fantasizing or just curious if they come and they live here, are they going to be able to find a girlfriend or a wife or something, to live their days out or whatever. And there's this idea that all these women in Colombia are out to rip you off. And I can tell you, it's so far from the truth. You got to get out of Medellin once in a while, where there it's just kind of a business practice. Because when you have on any given day, 10 to 20,000 foreigners, essentially in Laureles or Poblado, basically in concentrated areas, then it becomes a business. It becomes financial. And the minute that the dollar, the peso gets involved, all bets are off. It's the burden's on you. And so if you meet up with a girl and she lies to you and scams you and rips you off, you set yourself up for it. So the first thing is, unless you're flying in to get a hooker or something, steer clear of Bogota and Medellin if you're trying to find somebody real. It's not that they aren't there. They are there. It's just that your chances of running into, somebody who's really all about the money, a gold digger, are extremely high there. And then when you get out here, or Ibagué or Manizales, then it becomes pretty rare. I told you about that dating video I did a few years back. And to do that dating video, I set up and had 62 dates. And during those dates, I was asking all kinds of questions. So I had valid information to put in the video, not just my impression. It was fascinating. I learned a lot about it. And I can tell you that when you go through that, plus living here before and all the experience that I had, you get to recognize pretty quickly, who's the gold digger, who's sincere, what are their motivations. It's not that difficult if you pay attention. And I found very few gold diggers out of that 62. It was really fascinating. And some of the cultural changes that went on from when I had been here before to now, really enlightening for me. I learned a lot on those dates. Those dates turned out to be more like interviews where I asked them questions about other boyfriends and what are you looking for and all kinds of, they're really more like a 60 minutes interview. But, and I still retain to this day a few friends that, went through that process. So can you trust Colombians? Yeah, absolutely. But understand that when dollar gets involved, when it becomes a business transaction, you don't lend money, or if you do lend money, just assume you will never see it again. You're better off if you know somebody that you're comfortable, they're having a problem and you want to help them out. It's a gift. And if they say, no, I'll pay you back. I don't know. If you set that up, you probably will never be friends with that person again. It'll never get paid. They'll be too embarrassed to see you again. So if you're going to do it, just gift it. You're probably never going to see it. If you can't afford to gift it, then you can't afford to lend it because it will be nothing but a hassle and just forget it. So is that everybody? No, it's not everybody. But that's That's the likely situation that you're going to see, because that's the majority of situation. Got some comments here. Let's see. What do we got? Exactly why I've sworn off Medellin women. Will only date if they're from the coffee region or Bogota. Well, even Bogota, you got to be very careful. Big city. The bigger the city, the more apt you're going to find this. With maybe the, well, I won't go there. Coleman, Boise. Damn, picking them potatoes. Is not that all women want to rip you off. Nobody said that. It's just that they are family oriented. When a girl gets a gringo, it's just like, okay, I can take some resources from him to help out, so you expose yourself. Well, maybe there's somewhat of an idea, but so there's some truth to what you say. But first of all, I never said all women want to rip you off. I actually said the exact opposite. And I said, depending on where you are within Colombia, if you're in more rural areas or smaller cities, like under 300,000 here in Armenia, you're getting further and further away from that kind of thing. And the vast majority of people are not going to be like that. But it is true. I mean, think about it. Forget the idea of whether somebody's ripping you off or not. Just completely put that aside. If you hook up with a girl, and she comes from, let's say, the poor part of town, and she's got a family, and her family's struggling, her brother lost his job, they're out of work, you're with this girl, and you're committed to her. Do you just ignore her family? I mean, in the U.S., we tend to do that because families are so fragmented, and families, but here it's very different. Families, how a lot of people survive, and you need that support. You need those extra people. So, you know, if you've got a girlfriend that you're truly committed to, and she's committed to you, how do you turn and walk away from helping that family? It doesn't mean, you know, you give everything. You have to be judicious about it, but you have to understand, if you don't want to be in that circumstance, then break up with her and go find somebody who's from middle class or a little more wealthy, where that won't be something that pops up. And that's not unique to Colombia. That's the same in the United States. You know, you can have a girlfriend and something happened to her sister, whatever, and she comes to you and says, you know, we got to help her out. We got to bail her out of jail. We got to, whatever it is. And, you know, and you could say no, but then you're a schmuck, right? So that's just being a human being. So keep that in mind. I've met some very nice women born and raised in Medellin. They're gold diggers also, but if you use good judgment, you can avoid a disaster. Exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying that your chances, because you have so many foreigners, then you have so many opportunities where a gold digger can be successful, that it becomes a thing. A girlfriend, a girl goes out and scores and you know, comes home with a lot of money, and her girlfriend looks at that and said, how'd you do that? How'd you get that new phone? How did you? Oh, well, you know, like the gringo came in, he was just throwing money at me and da-da-da. Really? Does he have a friend? And it grows. And over the years, it has grown. It's become a place where that is a thing. That's what happens. So everybody's not like that, but your chances of running into it are very high. And because that doesn't happen here, I mean, who comes to Armenia? Nobody. You know, so some of you guys now for retirement or something, it's great for that. They're not going to do well in doing that. Another thing that's kind of a, we'll say a scam, except it is what it is, you know, girls will get on Tinder or, you know, various dating sites, Latin American Cupid or whatever, and get people to send them money. Not initially, but you get talking to them for a while and you feel like there's a connection and she's real good at that. And the next thing you know, she lost her cell phone or somebody's sick in the hospital. It's always the same kind of thing. And I'll tell you that there's actually a lot of this is organized. You actually have criminal, I call them pimps, that run these computer banks where there'll be a row of girls there that are just on the payroll getting paid to do this, to lure people in, you know, so kind of keep that in mind when you're on the dating apps. You just need to date more age appropriate women. That I can't agree, because this has been going on so long. If you're in Medellin, for example, you can date somebody 40 years old who spent the last 30 years doing this. And so they just got really good at it. They just got better at it. It has more to do with where you are than it has to do with the age. Although, you know, I get what you're saying. You know, if you're an old toad like me and some hot 20-year-old comes up, sidles up next to you, you got to figure she's not there for your looks. you know, so I get that part of it. Remember a simple formula: 95% of Colombians are wonderful people, 4% are scammers, 1% will kill you for your shoes. The trick is knowing who and who. Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. I would just say that that's a sliding scale depending on where you are. Rob, based on what you're saying, it seems like it would not be a great idea to go into business with a Colombian partner. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is learn how they do business here and act appropriately. Do not come here doing business the way that you've spent your life doing business. You can have a partner here, and I wouldn't have an issue with that, but I would have everything spelled out. Because, like I said, if it's there, if it's in a contract, or if you have agreements one way or another, they will honor that. If it's not there, all bets are off, and if he can win, he's going to do that. So just be aware of that. Lots of university and professional women in Bogota to choose from. You want to date 15 and 20 years younger, forget it. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and there's truth to what you're saying. I just want to temper it with a little reality that there are differences. How do you know she's committed to you? Well, if you're a grown man and you can't figure it out, I don't know what to tell you. You can test somebody. You can create some, we'll say creative situations to see how they decide through those. You can test somebody like that, and if they pass or fail, it has to be subtle. You want to give it a lot of thought. I've been known to do that, but I find it very successful to do that, as a matter of fact. Let's see, it's city culture in Medellin. Yeah, it's just smaller cities don't have it. It's here in Armenia. It's just really rare. Of all those dates that I was telling you about, I don't remember the number now, because like I say, it was like 3 years ago. But I would say out of 62, there might have been 4 or 5 that would have fallen into that category of direct gold digger. Then you had a handful or so that it was more of a financial situation, you know, more of a legitimate but financial agreement kind of thing they're looking for. Look, you got some money, I can keep you company. You know, it's like let's make it work. You know, that kind of thing. And then the rest, well, you have to watch the dating video, I guess. Although I think it might still be blocked. I didn't want it to be out in the public because it's kind of a sensitive topic. I didn't do anything that was rated X or anything like that. It was actually all PG. But there's so many internet trolls, and I just didn't want to deal with it. But it really was a fascinating experience. And if you've got a month or two to of time to kill. Sign up on a few dating apps, set up some dates. There were a lot of days I was having coffee early, coffee late lunch, coffee for dinner. Because I was trying to do as many as I could over a short period of time so I could get that video out. It was the most ambitious project I did. And I also say I had a lot of fun doing it in some cases. Let's see, where else was I? How do you know? Committees, city culture. Well, that is an off comment. Men value fertility and beauty, so our male nature will drive us towards it. Well, fertility, not necessarily. Beauty, of course. If the most beautiful woman comes up to you and you discover that you have a possibility of being with that girl, yeah, but there's a lot more than that. For me personally, back when I was young and handsome and before I got sick and fat and all that, it was easy. It was easy to get women, and I've had a lot of very beautiful women. And the truth of it is, that personality has more value. I know that sounds weird. I know that's a joke. I know it's a joke. Yeah, it's got a good personality. But when it really comes down to it, somebody that's going to be loyal and true to you and that you can rely on is way more valuable than if every man in the club is turning her head because she's dazzling. But hey, whatever. If there's a real relationship developing, she'll introduce you to her family. Yeah, my issue was in that dating thing is I had a lot of situations where people wanted me to go meet their family, but I wasn't being serious about it. I was trying to do a video. But that came up quite a bit, actually. You get invited to a lot of things, a lot of family things, because it's just a friendly thing. My dating video is not blocked. All right. I thought that at some point I opened it up for the public because it was kind of long past talking about it, but I wasn't sure. I don't trust any women, not even here in Armenia. It's just cheaper to get a prepago, no serious dating. Well, it's always an option. I mean, hookers are legal in Colombia. It can be cheap and simple and that kind of thing. I don't hate anybody for going in that direction. It can make, it can make sense. If you're not sincere about a relationship, that's a heck of a lot more honest than lying to somebody, just to have a little fun once in a while. It's that's pretty seamy. What is the title of your video about all those dates? I have no idea. Like I said, it was about 3 years ago. I think it was just like dating video or something like that. I actually should pull it down. I was thinking about redoing it because after COVID, there are some things that are different in there. The bulk of it is still correct, but there's some things that are a little different. Quite right. Sex lasts at the most 30 minutes or 30 seconds, depending on who you are. I mean, hey, no. If you cannot get along for over 23 hours, you're in a world of hurt. Yeah, good point. I get serious with any Colombian woman when you can change every week or twice. Because maybe you want to have an actual friend. Maybe you want to have somebody there that, there's other things. Every relationship should be a give and take and should be an exchange of things. So you could look at it and say, well, I give her money and she gives me sex or company or whatever. You could do that, perfectly legitimate. Or you have situations where I've got this girlfriend and she needed to go somewhere out of town, but she didn't want to go alone. She'd feel safer, so you go along with her. And now, okay, I got this problem with my internet. They're trying to charge me twice, and they don't really understand what I'm trying to say. So maybe she'll go with me and speak for me and help me through that. You know, having each other's back is another way. And so there's good reason to have actual friends or actual relationships where you both can benefit from it. So, I mean, everybody on here is old enough to know that, right? To realize that. Here are best to worst odds in my view. Manizales, Bucaramanga, Armenia, Bogota, Pereira, Cali, Medellin, Cartagena for a serious relationship. For a serious relationship. I won't argue that. Pereira, I don't know. I'd probably put that better than Bogota. But I think the rest of it, I probably couldn't argue. I'd put Armenia as top of the list. I think your best odds are in Armenia. And then I would say, yeah, Manizales. Then I would say Ibagué. And then Bucaramanga, yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. And then Pereira. And then Bogota, Cartagena, Medellin, or Medellin, Cartagena. Flip a coin on those two. Is it true that living with a Colombian girlfriend for 2 years entitles them to have half of your assets when you separate? They do have common law, and so if you live with them for that period of time, essentially she becomes your wife legally. And now some people have ways around it. They have to live with you continuously for that period of time. So there's people that say, well, I have one situation I know. I didn't know him personally, but a friend of mine knew him. So he thought that he would break that up. He flew back to the United States for a month. And he said, aha, I'm safe. Came back. Well, but she stayed in his place. Didn't work. But if she moves out for a week, then the clock starts over again. But you got to be careful when you're trying to finesse things and skirt around the situation. You never know when you're going to get caught up in some fine print. But on the face of it, yeah, that's true. If you live with them, I believe it is 2 years, although I don't keep track of it, and those things do change. There's a lot of things here, like the actual legal age of consent is 14 years old. And before you go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Well, it wasn't that many years ago where it was 10 years old in Florida, but the actual age of consent is 14. However, you can't be a prostitute unless you're 18. There's a whole bunch of things that you've got to be 18. That's where the total age limit is. And so between 14 and 18, there are certain provisions, like what is the actual circumstance. Parents can intercede and override in some cases. They can argue a situation. So, but you shouldn't be down in those waters anyway. So, so yeah, it's true. But if you're with somebody for a couple years, then what do you have to argue about? Okay, we got any other questions? See, that topic wasn't so bad. When I post up the link to my coffee time videos on about 5 different Facebook channels because I've been asked to do it. And so every week I'll go and I'll post them up. And in some, it used to be more, but people quit commenting or mentioning it, and I just stopped posting them up because it's kind of a pain. But when I post up on Medellin Facebook page, if you know that page, it's ripe with endless trolls. It's pretty bad. And today I posted this up and I immediately got 3 pretty stupid comments. And so I turned off commenting. And that may be the first time I've ever done that. But I could just picture this will turn into 80 comments where everybody's trying to outdo themselves. And now this is all before they actually had a clue of what was actually being said in the video. And the one I actually laughed at, it's when I turned comments off. Somebody said something about trusting Colombians. It's obviously it's clickbait. Well, how is it clickbait when every Colombian you ever meet says don't trust people here? It's not clickbait. It's what everybody says. And I just wanted to temper that because it can be kind of confusing. It's like, well, I've met a lot of people that are very trustworthy. You know, I left my cell phone in a taxi and, you know, he spent 2 days tracking me down to hand me my cell phone back. And how can they say that, you know, they're not to trust people? Well, today I hope that I help you with that fine line. Now, it's not a law. You're going to have unscrupulous people everywhere, but there is this line where it becomes not personal anymore, and it kind of turns into a business transaction where getting you means they did a good job. How's the weather in Armenia for August? I love the weather here all the time. How's the rental market in Armenia? House or large condo? Rental market's fine. I don't see any big increases. For $300 to $400, you can live in an awesome place. You can get a place for under $200. We found the link on Facebook. Thanks for doing it. Yeah, I wonder sometimes. There's so many damn trolls there. They're just corrosive people that they're just bitter and angry and have nothing better to do in life. It's like, what a miserable way to live. But they're there. Want to move out from 360. I want to go back to 360. But notice that rent going up very much everywhere, especially in Oreb. Starting tomorrow, I can actually take all of August to look, and I'm thinking about it. But 360, as you know, I love the particular apartment I had, but it was not a typical apartment in that building. You got 300 or so, and there was only 5 or 6 of the style that I had, which was the largest of all of them. And the position where it faced towards downtown, and it was just the perfect location. I loved it. The only thing I didn't like about that building is all the woodwork and trim and everything is just completely at odds with what I like. But I just ignored it because it was just so awesome living there. Oreb, there's hardly ever anything available in Oreb. Gorgeous place, hardly anything available. I haven't noticed that rents have been going up that much, but I'll be looking in earnest over the next couple weeks, contemplating if I'm going to make a change. You know, every year your contract's up and you can decide if you're going to go somewhere or not. I haven't decided. I left my iPhone in a eatery in a village near Medellin. They returned it to me half an hour later. Yeah, it's not really that unusual. Again, just depends on a lot of things. Ben, how you doing, Ben? Seen you here before, just joined. Send me a local phone number so I can call you from hotel and put Ada next week. What you want to do is, let's see. You want to, you send me an email and tell me what you want, and then we'll do that. So I'll put that up there. Okay. Whoop. Shaking the whole table. No, it's not an earthquake. Mike, don't forget. He was telling me, he says, I can't find sage anyway. He wanted to make southern or breakfast sausage or sausage gravy, you know, that kind of thing. And you got to have sage for it. And he says, I can't find it anywhere. And I was surprised because prior to him saying that, the last time I had been in PriceSmart, they had it in the big containers because I got 1 million of those. Then I went to PriceSmart after he said that, and sure enough, it wasn't there. They didn't have it. You could find it in the Italian seasonings, but it was mixed with other things that wouldn't be appropriate. It would just kind of mess it up. And I was very surprised. And then I looked in a couple of the local supermarkets, and they didn't have it. But like everything, you can get pretty much anything you could possibly want through Mercado Libre. So I ordered up and actually ordered a case of 12. But something happened, the case got damaged, and they sent me 8 with a refund on the difference, which I really appreciated because I wanted it, and I didn't want a situation, I could imagine, well, case is damaged, so we can't send it. You're going to have to wait another 2 weeks or something. That would have sucked. So sending me the 8, I was actually very appreciative. It would have been nice maybe if they had asked me, but it's exactly what I would have wanted, so it worked out for me. Okay, whoop. Whatever, between 2,400,000, 3,400,000, everything included. I don't know what everything included means. And that's not, any given one isn't representative because they're not really apartments. To those that aren't aware of this, so I'll repeat this. There are no apartments here in Armenia. They're all condos owned personally by somebody. So you have a building like over at 360 of 300 condos. Each one is personally owned. You might have somebody that gets a couple of them for rental, or one for them, one for extended family or whatever, but they're personally owned. They're not owned by the building. And so when you rent, you're not renting from that building. You're renting from that person. And so how that condo is entirely for that person. He could have changed floor plan. It could be furnished. It could be lack of care. It could be like pristine and brand new. Maybe he includes internet because he decided it's easier to do that. Others are just four bare walls, but all the walls just bare. You don't know. It's every situation is individual. And you're saying everything included. That's actually not very typical. And so if you're talking about a place that's done up with all the utilities, and if it's furnished or something, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that price. That's not rent prices going up. That's really a different situation, which is actually unusual. It's very unusual to have furnished or have utilities included. That's more Airbnb price. And maybe they set it up for Airbnb and found that they weren't getting enough business to cover it, and so now they want to decide to rent month to month. That's very possible. I will email you. Hope we can have a cup of coffee during my visit. If it's in Armenia, yeah, I don't get to Pineda very often, and when I do, I want to get out as quick as I can. Sage and fennel seed for breakfast sausage. Yeah, fennel seed is easy. It's the sage that he was having trouble. And when I went out saying, well, why are you having problems? I never had problems. I've actually bought it here before. But he was right. For whatever reason, it wasn't on the shelves, but here it is. It's on my shelf in Armenia. Okay, cool. Let me know. If I can, I will. I try to meet everybody that asks. Sometimes, I'm doing something else. It was not long ago, a guy kept asking me, but I was already committed. He only had 2 or 3 days, and then he had to catch a flight. And it wasn't like a couple days after he left where my schedule freed up. I tend to stay busy, although sometimes I'm twiddling my thumbs with not much to do, so you never know. Blackberry juice today. All right. Any other questions? We're right up at the 1 hour mark. Last call. When I said everything included means all utilities and all furnished. Okay. Well, that makes sense. That price makes perfect sense because if it's like a like a 3-bedroom, the price for that would typically be 1.5 to 1.8. And now if you're adding nice furnishings and you're including all the utilities, it makes perfect sense, because you're not only going to pay for those, but you're going to pay for a premium for the sake that it even exists, because there's so few of them. And so for the guy to be charging another 600, 800,000 or so, or whatever, it makes perfect sense to do that. But that doesn't mean rents went up. That's just a different situation. I haven't seen that there's really been much of a rent increase. Now, last year I saw it, but I don't know. I'll tell you more, because the next couple of weeks I'll be looking. And they rented by month only. Okay, so it's exactly what I said. They set this thing up basically as an Airbnb. They're doing it month by month because the Airbnb thing wasn't working out for them, which I'm not the least bit surprised. So, yeah, so what you're saying makes sense, but now rents are still pretty awesome. All right. So now we're down to the last call before I bow out for the day. I had some new people again this week. I want to thank you for coming. Feel free next week to write your comment and ask any questions or whatever. My email's up on the screen. And for the new people, there's the website. It's got all kinds of stuff on there. It's got my blog about why I moved to South America. If you add them all up, they amount to basically a small book. It's got the podcast link. It's got t-shirts you can get, mugs you can get. Shilling now. Every video I've ever done is there. So there's the website, grandcolumbia.live. All right. Well, thank you all. Did I, let's see. Did I mention Mark contribution? Thank you. I appreciate it. Did I miss anybody else? I think that's it. Okay. And Jerry, give me 5 minutes. I'll send you an email with my Skype link, and we'll get hooked up. I love Pareda, Chaos, and Different. I'm glad somebody loves it. It's just not for me. But there are things about it that I do really appreciate. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week. Ciao.